Zoe Martinez gripped her wheelchair handles as the gang of boys circled closer, their laughter sharp as broken glass. She'd learned to swallow fear, but today felt different, heavier. Then she heard it, the low rumble that made the asphalt tremble beneath her wheels. 6 Harley-Davidsons rolled through the school gates like thunder, given form, and the boy who'd shoved her chair yesterday went pale. The lead rider cut his engine, stepped off, walked straight toward her. Everything was about to change. Before we dive into Zoe's story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what happens next will restore your faith in strangers. And drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end. Zoe's arms burned. 40 minutes pushing herself home from Maple Ridge Middle School in 100-degree heat. 40 minutes of cracked sidewalks and broken curbs and people pretending not to see her. She was 12, 4 feet nothing in her wheelchair. Born with spina bifida. Born into a world that couldn't decide if she was invisible or a spectacle. Most days invisible won. She turned onto Sycamore Street and saw him. A man the size of a mountain pushing a dead Harley. Black leather vest soaked with sweat, graying beard, hands shaking, not from effort, from something else. Zoe watched Mr. Patterson cross to the opposite sidewalk, watched 2 joggers turn around mid-stride, watched a Honda accelerate past with windows rolling up. The man kept pushing, dragging 1,000 pounds of chrome and steel inch by inch. His breath came in ragged gasps. Her mother's voice echoed, "Baby, your heart's bigger than this town, but that doesn't mean everyone deserves what's in it." The man stopped, leaned against the bike, one hand pressed to his chest. Zoe had seen her father look exactly like that before the heart attack. "Hey." The man's head snapped up. Zoe wheeled toward him, pulled out her water bottle, her last one. "You look like you need this more than I do." Up close, his eyes were bloodshot, haunted. But when he looked at her, something shifted. "Kid, you don't want to give water to somebody about to collapse from heat stroke." She held the bottle out. "My uncle's a paramedic. I know what dehydration looks like. Take it." His hand trembled when he reached for it. He drank half in one pull, tried to hand it back. "Keep it. You're not done yet." "I can't. Is it the engine or the fuel line?" He blinked. "What? Your bike. What died? How do you—" "My dad rebuilt Chevys before the mill closed. So which is it?" Almost smiled. Almost. "Fuel pump, I think. Thing just quit 2 miles back." Zoe pulled out her phone. "There's a guy named Eddie who runs a garage 6 blocks from here. He owes my family a favor." Already texting. "I'm sending him your location." "Kid, I can't ask you to." "You didn't ask. I offered." She hit send. They sat in the terrible heat. This mountain of a man in leather and patches. This 12-year-old girl with sweat-soaked hair and determination carved into her face. "What's your name?" he asked. "Zoe." "Cole. People call me Bear." "Makes sense. You're built like one." This time he did smile. "Why'd you stop?" he asked. "Why wouldn't I? I saw 8 people cross the street." "Yeah, well, I can't cross the street that fast. Figured I might as well make myself useful." Bear laughed, a sound like gravel shifting. 15 minutes later, Eddie's tow truck rumbled around the corner. Eddie leaned out of Bear's vest, and his face went neutral. "Eddie, this is Bear," Zoe said fast. "Bear Eddie. Eddie, remember when I didn't tell my aunt you were at the casino instead of visiting your sick mom?" Eddie grimaced. "Yeah. Today's payback." Eddie got out. He and Bear loaded the bike without much talk, but no hostility either. Two men dealing with a broken machine. Before climbing into the passenger seat, Bear turned back. "I won't forget this. It's just water and a phone call." "No." His voice dropped. "It's not." Then he was gone. Zoe wheeled home. 20 more minutes, arms screaming, water gone, sun trying to melt her into pavement. But she smiled anyway. She didn't think about Bear again until 3 days later. Monday morning. Usual chaos. Her mother fussing. Her father reading yesterday's news. Her brother Marco inhaling cereal without breathing. "You remember the dentist appointment Thursday?" her mother asked. "Mom, it's Monday." "You said that last time." "That was because Mr. Henderson kept us late for a test." Marco snorted. "She's got you there." Zoe threw toast at him. He caught it. Ate it. Their mother sighed. Too tired to enforce rules she didn't care about anyway. Normal. Boring. Safe. Her father helped her into the van. Marco complained about loading her chair. Her mother kissed her forehead the same way she had for 12 years. Maple Ridge Middle School cracked ramps, broken elevators, locked bathrooms. Zoe knew which hallways had smooth floors, which teachers let her leave early, which bathroom stalls had doors that closed. She also knew which corners to avoid during passing periods. She was wheeling toward her locker when she saw them. Brandon Hartley and his crew. 5 eighth graders. Brandon's father owned the car dealership. His mother sat on the school board. Brandon had been raised to believe consequences happened to other people. "Hey, look, it's Wheels!" Brandon called. Zoe kept moving. "Yo, Wheels, I'm talking to you." His friends laughed. Always laughed. She reached her locker, started working the combination. Brandon's hand slammed above her head. Blocked the door. "You deaf. Oh wait, that's not it. You're the cripple, not the deaf girl. I always get you two confused." "Move, Brandon. Make me." His friends circled. 5 of them standing. 1 of her sitting. "What's the matter?" Brandon leaned down. Energy drink breath. "Can't reach," someone laughed. "You know what I heard?" Brandon's voice dropped. "I heard your dad screwed up some machine at the mill. That why you guys live in that crappy neighborhood now?" Zoe's hands tightened on her wheels. "My dad's not your business. Everything here is my business. My mom's on the board. She says your family bleeds the special ed budget dry with all your accommodations." He said it like poison. Says maybe if your parents couldn't afford a kid like you, they shouldn't have had one. The words hit like fists. "Go to hell, Brandon." His face changed. The fake cruelty became real. "What did you say? You heard me." He grabbed her chair handle, yanked backward. Her books spilled. Water bottle rolled. The hallway went silent. Everyone watching. No one moving. "Pick them up," Brandon said. "Pick them up yourself." He yanked harder. She nearly tipped. Someone gasped. "Brandon, come on, man," one of his friends said. "That's enough." "It's enough when I say it's enough." Brandon leaned close. "You think you're special because you get extra time. You're not special. You're just broken. And broken things—" The rumble started low, then louder. The building shook. Brandon's hand froze on her chair. The first motorcycle rolled through the school gates, then the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. They parked in a perfect line. Engines idling, chrome catching sun like a threat. Every bike a Harley, every rider wearing the same patches. The skull, the wings, the words that made people remember every scary movie about bikers they'd ever seen. The engines cut. 6 men climbed off. Big men. Scarred men. Men who'd forgotten more about violence than Brandon would ever learn. Leading them was Bear. He walked through those gates like he owned the ground, past the crowd pressing against windows, straight toward the hallway where Zoe sat with Brandon's hand still frozen on her chair. Mr. Williams stepped into the doorway. "Sir, this is school property, you can't—" Bear looked at him. Mr. Williams stopped talking. Bear's boots echoed on linoleum. Students scattered. He stopped 10 feet from Zoe and Brandon. "You want to take your hand off her chair?" His voice was quiet, conversational, terrifying. Brandon let go like the metal was electrified. "We good here, Zoe?" Every eye turned to her. "We're good." Bear nodded, turned to Brandon. "What's your name, son?" "Be Brandon." "Brandon." Bear took one step closer. "I learned something a long time ago. The way you treat people when you think nobody's watching, that's who you really are. I've been watching you for 3 minutes. I'm not impressed." "I wasn't—" "You put your hands on her chair, dumped her stuff, said things I'm betting your mama wouldn't want to hear." Another step. "So here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna pick up everything you knocked over. You're gonna apologize. And then you're never, and I mean never, gonna bother this girl again. We clear—" Brandon was shaking. "Yes, sir." "Good. Get to it." Brandon dropped to his knees, grabbed books with trembling hands. His friends had vanished. The hallway stayed frozen. When he'd restacked everything on Zoe's lap, Bear looked at him. "I'm sorry," Brandon whispered. "Say it like you mean it." "I'm sorry, Zoe. Really, I'm sorry." Bear jerked his head toward the exit. Brandon ran. Then Bear knelt to Zoe's level. His face changed completely. The hardness melted. "You okay?" She nodded. "Good." He stood. "My brothers and I are going to stick around a few minutes. Make sure everything stays cool. You need anything, you let me know." He walked back outside. His 5 brothers formed a perimeter around the entrance. Zoe sat there trying to understand what just happened. Principal Hendricks appeared 10 minutes later, red-faced, sweating, demanded the bikers leave. Bear had a quiet conversation. Hendricks went pale, retreated to his office. The bikers stayed another hour, not threatening anyone, not doing anything except standing there. A silent promise that cruelty done in the dark had been dragged into light. By lunch, Zoe's phone exploded. Her mother called by 3 different parents. Marco heard from 6 people, her father already on his way. Brandon sat 4 tables away staring at his tray. Nobody bothered Zoe the rest of the day. Not one person. When her father arrived early, face tight with worry, Bear was waiting by the van. "Mr. Martinez, I'm Cole Maddox. I apologize if I caused trouble for your daughter. That wasn't my intention." Her father looked at Bear, then Zoe, then Bear. "What was your intention?" "Your daughter helped me when I needed it. I wanted to make sure she knew that kindness doesn't go unnoticed. By showing up at her school with a motorcycle gang, by making sure the people hurting her understood she's not alone." Bear's voice cracked. "Sir, I lost my brother 2 weeks ago. Heart attack, same age as me. I was pushing that bike through this town, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Every person I passed looked at me like trash, like I was invisible, like I didn't matter." His voice broke. "Your daughter stopped, gave me her last water, called someone to help, treated me like I was human when everyone else decided I wasn't." Silence. "Get in the van, mija," her father said finally. Zoe wheeled past Bear. Their eyes met. "Thank you," she mouthed. He nodded. As they drove away, Zoe watched him in the side mirror, standing in the parking lot, watching them go. "Mom's going to lose her mind," Marco said. "Mom's going to understand," their father replied. didn't sound convinced. Zoe stayed quiet, watching the school shrink, thinking about Brandon's face, the silent hallway. 6 motorcycles and 6 men who'd shown up for a girl they didn't know, because she'd given one of them water. Bear's words echoed. Kindness doesn't go unnoticed. Maybe she'd started something bigger than she understood, something that wasn't finished. That night, Zoe couldn't sleep. She kept replaying it. Bear's boots on linoleum, Brandon's shaking hands, the way the entire school had gone silent. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "This is Cole. Your dad gave me your number. Hope that's okay. Just wanted to check you're all right." She stared at the screen. "I'm okay. Thank you for today." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "That boy won't bother you again. But if anyone else does, you call me. Any time. I mean that. Why are you doing this long pause? Because 3 days ago I wanted to quit. Quit riding. Quit breathing. Quit everything. My brother was gone, and I couldn't see a reason to keep going. Then this kid in a wheelchair gave me water and looked at me like I mattered. Like I was worth saving." Zoe's throat tightened. "You reminded me that kindness still exists, that people still stop. I need you to know that what you did, it saved me that day. So if I can return that even a little, I will," she typed with shaking hands. "You didn't have to bring 5 other guys." "Yes, I did. 1 guy on a bike is a curiosity. 6 guys on bikes is a statement. I wanted to make sure the statement was loud enough." Zoe smiled in the dark. "It was loud enough. Good. Get some sleep, kid. And remember you're not alone. Not anymore." She set the phone down, stared at the ceiling. Her mother knocked softly, came in without waiting for an answer. "You want to talk about today?" "Not really." Her mother sat on the edge of the bed. "Your father told me what that man said about his brother." "Yeah. Baby, I need you to understand something." Her mother's voice was careful. "What you did for him was beautiful. But these men, they live complicated lives. Dangerous lives sometimes. I don't want you getting pulled into something. Mom, he's not dangerous." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Zoe sat up. I saw his hands shaking. I saw the way he looked when he talked about his brother. I saw how he knelt down to talk to me instead of standing over me like every other adult does. He's not dangerous. He's just hurt. Her mother was quiet for a long time. "You have your father's heart," she said finally. "Too big for your own good sometimes." "Is that a bad thing?" "No, baby. It's the best thing." She kissed Zoe's forehead. "But promise me you'll be careful. The world isn't always kind to people with big hearts." "I promise." After her mother left, Zoe picked up her phone again, scrolled through the messages. "You're not alone. Not anymore." She fell asleep with those words running through her mind. Tuesday morning, the school was different. Whispers followed Zoe down the hallway. Not mocking whispers. Awed whispers. "Did you see those bikes?" Brandon literally ran away. Who was that guy? Jenny Watkins, the girl Brandon had mentioned, the one who was deaf, approached Zoe at her locker. Signed quickly. Zoe's ASL was rusty, but she caught the meaning. "Thank you." "For what?" Zoe signed back. "For showing everyone that we don't have to take it. That we can have backup too." Jenny smiled and walked away. 3 other kids stopped Zoe before first period. All of them thanking her. All of them sharing their own stories of Brandon, of other bullies, of feeling invisible and powerless. "You made him scared?" one kid said. Nobody's ever made him scared before. In third period, Mrs. Chen asked Zoe to stay after class. I heard what happened yesterday, the teacher said, with the bikers. Zoe tensed. I didn't ask them to. I know. That's not why I wanted to talk. Share to Mrs. Chen sat on the edge of her desk. I've taught here for 19 years. I've watched Brandon Hartley, and kids like him get away with cruelty because their parents write checks and sit on boards. I've watched good kids suffer because adults were too afraid to stand up. She looked directly at Zoe. What happened yesterday scared the hell out of Principal Hendricks, but it also woke him up. He's calling an assembly Friday about bullying and accountability. Because of me. Because you had the courage to accept help, and because someone cared enough to offer it. Mrs. Chen smiled. That's rarer than you think. Zoe left the classroom with her head spinning. At lunch, she sat at her usual table alone the way she preferred it, less complicated. But today, Jenny Watkins sat down across from her. Then Marcus Webb, who stuttered. Then Alicia Chen, who was 300 pounds and wore her weight like armor against the world's judgment. They didn't say much. Didn't need to. They just sat together. A silent alliance of kids who'd spent years being targets. Across the cafeteria, Brandon sat with his friends. But they weren't laughing anymore. They were quiet. Subdued. Broken, Zoe realized. The way she'd been told she was broken her entire life. Except she'd never been broken. She'd just been waiting for the world to catch up. Wednesday afternoon, Bear texted again. You free Saturday? Why, I want to show you something. Your parents, too, if they're willing. Nothing weird, I promise. Just something I think you'd like to see. Zoe showed her parents. They exchanged a look, the kind of wordless communication that came from 20 years of marriage. I'll go with her, her father said. See what this is about. Saturday morning arrived cold and clear. Bear pulled up on his Harley, but he'd also brought a pickup truck driven by another man in a leather vest. This is Tiny, Bear said. He's going to drive us. Thought it'd be easier than trying to follow me on the bike. Tiny was 6'5" and built like a brick wall. He shook Zoe's father's hand with surprising gentleness. They drove for 40 minutes, out of Maple Ridge, into the hills, onto private property with a sign that read, Angels Rest, Members Only. What is this place? Zoe asked. Our clubhouse, Bear said. But today it's something else. They pulled into a gravel lot. There were already 30 bikes parked there. 30 men and women in leather all gathered around something covered with a tarp. Bear helped Zoe out of the truck, wheeled her toward the crowd. Brothers and sisters, he called out. Most of you heard what happened last week, about what this young lady did for me when I needed it most. His voice carried across the lot. We talk a lot about loyalty, about brotherhood, about standing up for our own. But sometimes we forget that those values don't stop at our club. They extend to everyone who lives by the same code. He nodded to Tiny. Tiny pulled the tarp. Underneath was a wheelchair. But not like any wheelchair Zoe had ever seen. Deep purple frame, chrome accents, leather grips, custom wheels with spokes that caught the light. A motor mounted underneath for long distances. And painted on the back in silver script, Ride or Die. Zoe couldn't breathe. We took up a collection, Bear said quietly. Had it custom built. Motor's got a 20-mile range. Frame's aircraft aluminum strong but light. Thought you might like it. Zoe's father made a sound half laugh, half sob. We can't accept this, he said. This must have cost... It cost exactly what it was worth, Bear interrupted. Your daughter gave me back my life. This is just a chair. It's not just a chair, Zoe whispered. Bear knelt beside her. No, it's not. It's a reminder that you're not alone, that you've got 300 brothers and sisters across this state who've got your back. And if anyone gives you trouble, you call me. You call any of us." One of the women stepped forward, older with gray streaks in her long hair and a face that had seen hard years. "I'm Donna," she said. "I've got a granddaughter about your age. Cerebral palsy. Watching what you did for Bear, and what he did for you, it reminded me why we do this. Why we ride. It's not about the bikes or the leather or the reputation. It's about family. And you're family now, honey, whether you want to be or not." Zoe looked at the chair, at the faces surrounding her, at her father who was crying openly now. "Can I try it?" she asked. Bear helped her transfer. The seat was perfect contoured to support her back. The controls were intuitive. The motor hummed when she pressed the throttle. She rolled forward. The chair responded like an extension of her body. She rolled faster. The crowd parted. She circled the lot, gaining speed, the wind in her face, and for the first time in her entire life, she felt what it was like to move without pain, without struggle, without limitation. She felt free. When she finally stopped, she was laughing and crying at the same time. The crowd erupted in cheers. Bear stood there with his arms crossed, smiling that almost smile that meant everything. "Thank you," Zoe said. "Thank you," Bear replied, "for reminding an old bastard that kindness still exists." That afternoon they stayed at the clubhouse, ate barbecue, listened to stories, met men and women who'd lived hard lives and found family in each other. Zoe's father talked shop with mechanics. Zoe listened to Donna talk about her granddaughter. Tiny taught her how to do a wheelie in her new chair, a modification he'd added specifically for that purpose. As the sun started to set, Bear pulled Zoe aside. "I need to tell you something," he said. "What happened at your school that's going to have consequences. Not for you. For me. For us. The club doesn't usually get involved in civilian business. Some of the brothers think we crossed a line. Are you in trouble? Doesn't matter. I'd do it again." He looked at her directly. "But I need you to understand this can't be a regular thing. We can't show up every time someone gives you trouble. That's not sustainable. And it's not healthy for you either. I know. What I can do is teach you how to handle it yourself, how to stand up without needing backup, how to find your own power." He smiled. "You've already got it, kid. You just need to trust it." "How?" "By remembering that you stopped for me when everyone else kept walking. That takes courage most people never find. Anyone who says you're weak or broken or less than they're wrong. And deep down, they know it. That's why they're scared of you." Zoe looked at her new chair, at the crowd of bikers who'd become family in a single afternoon, at her father who was laughing with Tiny, like they'd known each other for years. "I'm not scared anymore," she said. "Good," Bear replied. "Because the world's about to learn what happens when someone like you stops being invisible." On the drive home, Zoe's father was quiet for a long time. "You did good, Mija," he finally said. "Your mother and I, we've spent your whole life trying to protect you from the world, trying to teach you to be careful, to be safe, to not trust too easily." He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "But maybe we were wrong. Maybe the world needs more people like you. People who stop. People who see others when everyone else looks away. Are you mad about the chair? Mad, baby. I'm grateful. I'm humbled. I'm terrified and proud and a dozen other things I don't have words for." He smiled. "But mostly I'm grateful that you're my daughter." When they got home, Zoe's mother was waiting on the porch. She took one look at the new chair and burst into tears. Then she hugged Zoe so tightly that breathing became optional. "Never stop being you," she whispered. Never let the world make you smaller. That night, Zoe sat in her room looking at her phone. Bear had sent one final message. "This is just the beginning, kid. The world's going to see what I see, that you're not broken. You're just built different. And different is exactly what we need." Zoe smiled in the dark. Monday was coming. School was coming. Brandon was coming. But she wasn't alone anymore. And that changed everything. Monday morning hit different. Zoe rolled through the school entrance in her new chair, and heads turned. Not the usual stares, the ones that looked through her or past her or anywhere but at her face. These were different stares. Recognition? Respect. Something that felt dangerously close to fear. Brandon wasn't at his locker. His crew was there, but they scattered when Zoe wheeled past, like roaches when someone flipped on a light. Jenny Watkins was waiting at Zoe's locker. Signed fast. Everyone's talking about Saturday. About the chair. About you. "What are they saying?" Zoe signed back. "That you're connected now. That messing with you means messing with them." "I'm not connected, I'm just—" "You are." Jenny's hands were firm. And that's not a bad thing. For the first time since I started here, nobody shoved me in the hallway this morning. Nobody. Because they're afraid you'll make a call. Zoe's stomach twisted. "That's not right. People shouldn't be nice because they're scared." "No. But they should be nice. And if fear gets us there, I'll take it." First period was American history. Mrs. Patterson, 60 years old, taught since the Reagan administration gave exactly 0 accommodations for anyone. Zoe wheeled in. Mrs. Patterson looked up from her desk. "New chair, Miss Martinez." "Yes, ma'am." "It's lovely. Purple suits you." She went back to her papers. "Take your seat." No questions. No commentary. Just acceptance. Zoe blinked. Mrs. Patterson had made her wait outside during a fire drill last year because wheelchairs complicate evacuation procedures. Something had shifted. At lunch, Zoe's table wasn't empty anymore. Jenny sat down. Marcus followed. Alicia. 3 others Zoe recognized from the halls, kids who usually ate alone, heads down, trying to be invisible. "Is it true they gave you a motorcycle?" Marcus asked, stumbling over the M sound. "Wheelchair, custom built." "My cousin saw the pictures on Facebook," Alicia said. "Someone's mom posted them. Said there were like 50 bikers there." 30. Still. Alicia unwrapped her sandwich. "That's insane, in a good way." They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus spoke again. "Brandon's been absent since Wednesday." "Good," Jenny signed. "No." Marcus shook his head. "Not absent like sick. Absent like his parents pulled him out. Transferred him to St. Augustine's." Zoe's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "What?" "My mom works in the office. She said his parents came in Friday. Said the school had created an unsafe environment for their son. That they were filing complaints against Principal Hendricks for allowing gang members on campus. They weren't gang members. Doesn't matter what they actually were. Matters what his parents called them." Marcus picked at his food. "My mom said the Hartleys threatened to sue the school to district everyone. So Hendricks let them transfer. Probably thought it was easier than fighting." "So Brandon wins," Alicia said bitterly. "He torments people for years. And when someone finally stands up to him, he gets to leave and start over somewhere else." "While we're stuck here," Jenny signed. Zoe looked down at her new chair, at the chrome that caught the cafeteria lights, at the leather grips that Bear's Club had paid for. "He didn't win," she said quietly. "How do you figure? Because we're still here. We're not hiding. We're not eating alone anymore." She looked around the table. "He ran. We stayed. That's not winning." Jenny smiled. signed something that roughly translated to "damn right." The afternoon crawled. Zoe kept waiting for something to happen. Some confrontation, some consequence, some evidence that the world hadn't completely tilted on its axis. Nothing came. Just normal classes, normal teachers, normal hallways that felt slightly less hostile than they had 2 weeks ago. After school, Zoe found her father waiting in the pickup zone. He helped her into the van, loaded her chair, and didn't say anything until they were 5 blocks from school. "Your principal called me today." Zoe's stomach dropped. What did he say? He wanted to let me know that the Hartley family had withdrawn Brandon from enrollment. He also wanted to assure me that the school takes bullying seriously and has implemented new protocols. Her father's voice was dry. Apparently, these protocols have been in development for months and have nothing to do with what happened last week. Dad, I told him that was fascinating since you'd been filing complaints about Brandon since September and nothing had been done until 6 Harleys showed up in his parking lot. He glanced at her in the rear view. He didn't have much to say to that. Am I in trouble? With the school, no. With me. He was quiet for a moment. I don't know how to feel about any of this, Misha. Part of me is proud. Part of me is terrified. Part of me wants to thank those bikers, and part of me wants to tell them to stay away from my daughter. They're not bad people, Dad. I know. I spent 4 hours with them Saturday. I know exactly what kind of people they are. He pulled into their driveway, turned off the engine. That's what scares me. Because now you're tied to them, and that means their enemies could become your enemies. Their problems could become your problems. Bear said the same thing. He said this can't be a regular thing. Smart man. He also said I need to learn to stand up for myself, without backup. Her father smiled. Small, but real. Even smarter man. That night, Zoe's phone buzzed. Bear heard Brandon transferred out. Yeah, his parents threw a fit. Good riddance. How are you holding up? Okay, I think. People are being weird. Nice weird, but still weird. That'll fade. Give it time. People will forget about the bikes and just remember that you're the girl who doesn't take crap from anyone. Is that who I am now? That's who you've always been, kid. The rest of us are just catching up. She smiled at the screen. Started to type a response. Stopped. Another message came through. Something else. There's an event this weekend. Charity ride for veterans. About 60 of us riding from Maple Ridge to the state capitol and back. Thought maybe you'd want to come. Your parents, too. In my chair. We've got a trailer set up, modified, safe, comfortable. You'd ride with us. Be part of the pack. Zoe's heart hammered. Can I ask my parents? Course. No pressure either way. Just thought you might like to see what we do when we're not scaring middle schoolers. She found her parents in the living room. Her mother was grading papers she taught 3rd grade at the elementary school. Her father was half watching a baseball game. Bear invited me to a charity ride this weekend, for veterans. He said you guys could come too. Her mother's pen stopped moving. A motorcycle ride. I'd be in a trailer, modified and safe. With 60 bikers. 60 bikers raising money for veterans, Zoe corrected. It's a charity event. Legitimate. Her parents exchanged another one of those wordless looks. I'll go, her father said. Check it out. If it looks safe, maybe we let her participate. Antonio, Maria, these people gave our daughter a $5,000 wheelchair and asked for nothing in return. The least we can do is see what they're about. Her mother closed her eyes. This is insane. 2 weeks ago, I was worried about her geometry grade. Now I'm worried about biker gangs. They're not a gang, Zoe said. They're a club. That's a distinction without a difference, baby. No, it's not. Gangs take things. Clubs protect things. There's a difference. Her mother looked at her for a long time. "When did you get so grown up?" "When I had to." Saturday came fast. Zoe woke at 5, 2 hours before her alarm. Couldn't sleep. Too much energy bouncing around her chest like electricity looking for ground. Her father was already up, coffee in hand, looking nervous. "You don't have to do this," Zoe said. "Yeah, I do. You're my daughter. Where you go, I go." They drove to the clubhouse in silence. Dawn was breaking, painting the hills in shades of orange and gold. The air smelled like coffee and gasoline and possibility. 60 motorcycles sat in neat rows, 60 riders in leather and patches checking bikes, adjusting mirrors, drinking coffee from styrofoam cups. Bear saw them and waved them over. "Antonio, good to see you. Zoe, you ready for this?" "What do I need to do?" "Just sit back and enjoy the ride. Tiny's pulling the trailer. He's the smoothest rider we've got. You'll be safer with him than you are in your family van. No offense, Antonio." Her father almost smiled. "None taken." The trailer was impressive. Custom built with a cushioned seat and safety harness, plexiglass windscreen, storage for her regular chair, even a small cooler with water and snacks. "Who built this?" Zoe asked. "Couple of the brothers who do custom fabrication. They built it for Donna's granddaughter, but she lives 3 states over. Doesn't get used as much as it should." Bear helped her into the seat, secured the harness. "You need anything at all, you tap on that window. Tiny'll hear you." Tiny climbed onto his bike, gave Zoe a thumbs up through the plexiglass. She returned it. Engines started. One by one, 60 Harleys roared to life. The sound was massive, bigger than thunder, deeper than earthquakes. It rattled Zoe's ribs and made her teeth vibrate. Then they rolled out. Zoe had never felt anything like it. The trailer was smooth. Bear hadn't lied about that. But more than the physical sensation was the emotional one. Being surrounded by 60 riders, all moving as one unit, all committed to the same purpose. Protection. Brotherhood. Family. They rode through Maple Ridge, past the school, past the street where she'd given Bear water, past the grocery store and the pharmacy, and all the places where people had looked through her for 12 years. Now people stopped and stared, pointed. Some waved. Some took pictures. Some just watched with their mouths open as the procession rolled past. Zoe felt a smile split her face. They rode for 2 hours, through small towns and farmland and stretches of highway where the only sound was wind and engines. Every 20 miles they stopped to let people stretch, use bathrooms, grab food. At the second stop, an older man approached. Vietnam vet, judging by his hat. He walked with a limp and a cane. "You boys raising money for vets?" he asked Bear. "Yes, sir. All donations go directly to the VA Medical Center. Help cover costs for folks who can't afford treatment." The vet pulled out his wallet, handed Bear a 20. "Thank you for doing this. Not many people remember us anymore." "We remember," Bear said quietly. "A lot of us are vets ourselves." The old man noticed Zoe then, sitting in the trailer eating a granola bar. "Who's this?" "This is Zoe. She's riding with us today." "Zoe, huh?" The vet moved closer, extended his hand. "Pleasure to meet you, miss. You part of the club?" "Honorary member," Bear said before Zoe could answer. "She's one of us." The vet shook her hand with surprising strength. "You ride with good people, young lady. These folks, they're the real deal. You stick with them, they'll never let you down." After he walked away, Zoe looked at Bear. "Honorary member? You got a problem with that?" "No, just didn't know it was official." "It's official now." He crouched beside the trailer. "Listen, kid, what we do, it's not always pretty. We're not saints. We've all got histories we're not proud of, but we take care of our own. And you're our own now. That means something. What does it mean? It means you've got 60 brothers and sisters who'll show up when you need us. It means you're never alone. It means... He stopped. Started again. It means you matter. To us. And that doesn't change. They rode for 4 more hours. Through the Capitol where they did a loop around the Veterans Memorial. Through the downtown where people cheered and honked. Through neighborhoods where kids ran out to wave and elderly folks stood on porches with their hands over their hearts. By the time they rolled back into Maple Ridge, the sun was setting, and Zoe's face hurt from smiling. Her father met them in the clubhouse lot. Looked different somehow. Lighter. "How was it?" he asked. "Dad, it was..." Zoe didn't have words. It was everything. That night photos showed up on Facebook. Someone had been documenting the ride. Shots of the 60 bikes in formation. Shots of the Veterans Memorial. Shots of Zoe in the trailer grinning like she'd discovered fire. By Sunday morning, 3 local news stations had picked up the story. Local motorcycle club raises $15,000 for veterans. The photos showed Bear handing an oversized check to the VA Medical Center director, and in every shot visible in the background was Zoe's trailer. By Monday, everyone at school had seen the pictures. "You were on the news," Marcus said at lunch. "My whole family saw it." "My mom called you a young disability advocate," Alicia added. "Which is weird, but whatever." Jenny signed, "You're famous." "I'm not famous. I just went on a ride. With 60 bikers, to raise money for veterans, while the whole town watched." Alicia grinned. "Yeah, totally not famous." But it wasn't fame that Zoe felt in the hallways that day. It was something else. Something more subtle. Teachers smiled at her. Students nodded. Nobody blocked her path or made her wait or treated her like she was invisible. They saw her. Finally, after 12 years of being background noise, people actually saw her. Wednesday afternoon, Principal Hendricks called Zoe to his office. She wheeled in, expecting trouble. Found something else entirely. "Miss Martinez, please sit." He stopped. "Sorry. I mean, thank you for coming." "Am I in trouble?" "No, quite the opposite." He fumbled with some papers. "I wanted to discuss something with you. The school board has asked me to form a student committee focused on accessibility and inclusion. Making sure all students feel safe and supported here. I'd like you to be on that committee." Zoe blinked. "Why me?" "Because you've experienced firsthand what happens when we fail our students. And because, frankly, you've shown more courage in the past 2 weeks than most adults show in a lifetime." He met her eyes. "I should have protected you from Brandon Hartley. I didn't. That's on me. This committee is one step toward making sure it doesn't happen again." "Who else is on it?" "I was hoping you'd help me decide. You know which students need representation, which voices need to be heard." Zoe thought for a moment. Jenny Watkins, Marcus Webb, Alicia Chen, and probably a few 8th graders I don't know yet. "Consider it done." Hendricks scribbled notes. "We'll meet once a month. You'll report directly to me and the school board. Your recommendations will carry weight. Real weight." "Why are you doing this?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because 6 motorcycles showed up in my parking lot and scared me half to death. Because I realized that if things had gotten that far, if a 12-year-old girl had to call in outside help because I failed to protect her, then I wasn't doing my job." He looked at her directly. "So I'm doing it now. Better late than never." Zoe wheeled out of his office with her head spinning. Jenny was waiting in the hall. "What happened? He wants me to start a committee about accessibility and inclusion." "And you said yes," I said yes. Jenny hugged her, hard, signed against her shoulder. You're changing things. I'm just trying to survive middle school. You're doing more than surviving. You're making it better for everyone who comes after you. That night, Bear texted. Heard you're starting a committee at school. Proud of you, kid. How did you hear about that already? I've got eyes everywhere. Also, Tiny's niece goes to your school. She told him. He told me. Zoe laughed. I don't know what I'm doing. What if I screw it up? You won't. You know why? Because you're doing it for the right reasons. Not for attention or power or revenge. You're doing it because you want to help people. That's all that matters. Bear. Yeah, thank you. For everything. For stopping that day. For showing up at school. For the chair and the ride and believing I'm worth all this. Long pause. 3 dots appearing and disappearing. Finally. Zoe. I need you to understand something. You saved me before I ever saved you. That day on Sycamore Street, I was done. Finished. Ready to give up. Then this kid in a wheelchair gave me water and looked at me like I mattered, like I was worth saving. You reminded me that kindness still exists. That's worth more than any chair or any ride or anything else I could ever give you. Zoe's eyes burned. We saved each other, she typed. Yeah, kid. I guess we did. She fell asleep that night thinking about chains of kindness. How one small act, one bottle of water on a hot day could ripple outward in ways nobody could predict. How stopping for one person could start a movement. How being seen could change everything. Thursday morning, Zoe rolled into school and found a poster on the main bulletin board. Accessibility and Inclusion Committee. First meeting, Monday, 3 p.m. All students welcome. Under it, someone had written in marker, about damn time. Jenny appeared beside her. Signed, this is really happening. Yeah, it really is. Are you scared? Zoe looked at the poster. At her reflection in the glass case purple chair, determined face shoulders that had learned to carry weight. No, she said. I'm not scared anymore. Because she wasn't alone. She had Jenny and Marcus and Alicia. She had 60 bikers who'd shown up when it mattered. She had parents who were learning to let her be brave. She had teachers who were finally paying attention. She had a voice that people were finally ready to hear. And that was more powerful than any fear. The lunch bell rang, students flooded the hallways. Zoe wheeled through the crowd, and this time, people moved aside without being asked. Made space. Smiled. Saw her. She thought about Bear's words. This is just the beginning. He was right. Everything was about to change. And for the first time in 12 years, Zoe wasn't just ready for it. She was going to lead it. The first committee meeting happened on a Monday that felt like the beginning of something Zoe couldn't quite name yet. 17 students showed up. Way more than she'd expected. They crammed into Mrs. Chen's classroom, wheelchairs, crutches, hearing aids, service dogs, and kids who looked physically fine but carried invisible weights. Principal Hendricks stood at the front, looking uncomfortable in a way that almost made Zoe feel sorry for him. Almost. Thank you all for coming, he started. This committee exists because we failed. I failed, and I want to do better. Silence. Heavy and expectant. Miss Martinez has agreed to help lead this effort. So I'm going to turn this over to her and step back. This is your space. Your voices. I'm just here to listen and implement. He sat down. Everyone looked at Zoe. Her mouth went dry. Public speaking had never been her thing. Being invisible had been safer. Easier. But invisible didn't change anything. She cleared her throat. I don't really know how to do this. I'm not a leader or whatever. I'm just tired of being treated like I'm less than everyone else because I use a chair. Heads nodded around the room. So maybe we just start by talking about what sucks, what needs to change, and we go from there. A girl in the back raised her hand. Zoe recognized her Sarah, something 8th grade, walked with forearm crutches. The ramps are too steep. I've fallen twice this year because I can't control my speed going down. Nobody cares because it's not their problem. The accessible bathroom is always locked, Marcus added. Like they don't trust us to use it properly or something. Jenny signed rapidly. Her interpreter translated, "Teachers don't face the class when they lecture. I can't read lips if they're writing on the board with their backs turned. I miss half of everything." "They put me in modified PE," another boy said. Zoe didn't know his name. But modified just means sitting in the bleachers watching everyone else play. It's not modified. It's segregated. The stories came faster, harder. Teachers who spoke too quietly. Elevators that broke monthly and stayed broken for weeks. Fire drill procedures that left disabled students trapped inside while everyone else evacuated. Assemblies where wheelchair users got shoved to the back where they couldn't see. Field trips that weren't accessible, so certain students just couldn't go. Zoe scribbled notes until her hand cramped. Pages and pages of problems that had been invisible to everyone who didn't live them. Hendricks looked progressively more horrified. "I didn't know," he said finally. "I genuinely didn't know it was this bad." "That's the problem," Sarah said quietly. "You didn't know because you didn't ask. And we stopped telling you because nothing ever changed." The meeting lasted 90 minutes. By the end, they had a list of 47 specific issues. Concrete problems with concrete solutions. "I'll present this to the board next week," Hendricks said. His voice was shaky. "And I'll push for immediate action on the safety issues. The ramps, the elevators, the fire procedures. Those can't wait." "What about the rest?" Zoe asked. "We'll prioritize, create a timeline, and I'll update you monthly on progress." He looked around the room. "You have my word. Things are going to change." After everyone left, Mrs. Chen pulled Zoe aside. "That was brave. What you did today. I just asked questions. You created space for people to be heard. That's more than questions. That's leadership." Zoe wheeled out of the classroom, feeling strange. Lighter somehow. Like she'd been carrying something heavy and had finally set it down. Her phone buzzed. "Bear. How'd the meeting go?" "Good, I think. We made a list of problems. Hendricks said he'd fix them." "Will he?" "I don't know. Maybe." He seemed pretty shaken. "Good. Sometimes people need to be shaken. You did that, kid. Be proud." She was proud, but also exhausted. Leading was harder than she'd thought it would be. That night at dinner, her mother asked about the meeting. Zoe told her about the list, the stories. Hendrix's face when he realized how badly they'd failed. 17 students showed up, Zoe said. "I didn't think anyone else would care." "Baby, everyone cares when someone finally gives them permission to speak." Her mother reached across the table, squeezed her hand. "You gave them that. I'm just one person. One person is how every movement starts." Marco looked up from his phone for once. "You're kind of a badass, Z, just saying." "Language," their mother said automatically. "But he's not wrong," their father added. "You're doing something important, Mija. Don't minimize that." Wednesday afternoon, Zoe was leaving school when a car pulled up beside her. Expensive sedan. Tinted windows. The back window rolled down. A woman leaned out. 50s perfectly styled hair expression that could freeze water. Mrs. Hartley. Brandon's mother. Zoe's stomach dropped. "Zoe Martinez," Mrs. Hartley said. Not a question. A statement. "I wanted to speak with you. About what you did to my son." Zoe's hands tightened on her wheels. "I didn't do anything to Brandon. He did things to me, for months, and nobody stopped him. Brandon made mistakes. He's a child. Children make mistakes." Mrs. Hartley's voice was ice cold. "But you brought gang members to a school. You endangered every student on that campus. They weren't gang members, and they didn't hurt anyone. They threatened my son, terrified him. He's been having nightmares, anxiety attacks. Do you understand what you've done?" Something hot and sharp rose in Zoe's chest. "Do you understand what he did? He shoved my chair, dumped my books, told me my parents shouldn't have had me, for months, while your friends on the school board did nothing. He made me feel like I was worthless, like I didn't deserve to exist. So yeah, some bikers showed up and scared him. Good. Maybe now he knows what it feels like." Mrs. Hartley's face went rigid. "You haven't heard the last of this. My husband and I have filed complaints with the district. Against you, against your biker friends, against everyone who enabled this situation. We will not let this stand." "File whatever you want. I didn't break any rules. I just stopped accepting that your son could hurt me without consequences." The window rolled up. The car drove away. Zoe sat there shaking. Her phone rang immediately. Bear. "Where are you right now?" "School parking lot. How did you—" "Tiny's niece saw Mrs. Hartley's car pull up. She called him. He called me. Are you okay?" "Yeah, she just wanted to threaten me, I think." "What did she say?" Zoe repeated the conversation. Bear was silent for a long moment. "Listen to me carefully. That woman is dangerous, not physically, but she's got money and connections and she's used to getting her way. If she's filing complaints, she's building a case for something. For what? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. In the meantime, you document everything, every interaction, every threat, every word. Understand? Bear, I don't want to drag you into too late. I'm already in. We're already in. That's what family means." His voice softened. "You're not alone, Zoe. Remember that." After they hung up, Zoe sat in the parking lot until her father arrived. She told him about Mrs. Hartley, about the threats. His face went hard. "That woman has nerve. Coming after my daughter because her son's a bully. What do? We document, we stay calm, and we don't give her ammunition." He helped her into the van. "But if she tries anything, I'll rain legal hell on her family, board member or not." Friday morning, Zoe arrived at school to find a camera crew in the parking lot. Local news. Channel 7. A reporter approached. 30s bright smile microphone with the station logo. "Zoe Martinez, I'm Rebecca Chen from Channel 7. We're doing a story on youth advocacy and disability rights. Would you be willing to answer a few questions?" Zoe's first instinct was to say no, to wheel away fast and hide. But hiding didn't change anything. "Okay." The camera turned on. Red light blinking. "Zoe, you recently started an accessibility committee at your school. What inspired that?" "It wasn't my idea. Principal Hendricks asked me to help. But I said yes because things needed to change. Students with disabilities have been treated like we're invisible or inconvenient. That's not okay." "What specific changes are you pushing for?" "Safer ramps, working elevators, better emergency procedures, teachers who face the class when they lecture so deaf students can read lips, field trips that everyone can attend, just basic dignity and inclusion." Some people might say schools are already doing enough for special needs students. What would you say to that? Zoe looked directly at the camera. I'd say those people don't use wheelchairs, don't use crutches or hearing aids or need accommodations to participate. When you live it every day, you see how far we still have to go. And calling us special needs is part of the problem. We're not special. We're just students who deserve the same opportunities as everyone else. Rebecca smiled. Strong words. Last question, there are rumors that your advocacy work was inspired by a local motorcycle club. Is that true? Zoe's chest tightened. I met someone who reminded me that kindness matters, that standing up for people matters, that we don't have to accept cruelty just because it's always been that way. He happened to ride a motorcycle, but the message would have been the same regardless. Can you tell us more about... That's all I want to say. Thank you. She wheeled away before Rebecca could ask follow-ups. The story aired that night at 6. Zoe's parents gathered around the TV like it was the Super Bowl. The segment was 3 minutes long. Showed Zoe talking about the committee. Showed footage of the school. Interviewed Principal Hendricks, who actually sounded sincere when he talked about making changes. And at the end, Rebecca's voiceover, local activists say this young advocate represents a new generation refusing to accept limitations. Only time will tell if Maple Ridge Middle School follows through on its promises. Zoe's phone exploded. Messages from classmates, from teachers, from people she'd never met saying they'd seen the story and were inspired. Bear texted, "You killed it, kid. Proud of you." Jenny, "You were on TV, Marcus. Dude, you're famous for real now." But the message that hit hardest came from an unknown number. "This is Sarah from the committee. My little sister uses a walker. She's in 4th grade and already getting bullied. Seeing you on TV made her cry happy tears. She said if you can be brave, she can be brave. Thank you for that." Zoe read it 3 times, felt something crack open in her chest. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for Sarah's sister, for every kid who'd ever been made to feel less than, for everyone who'd been invisible. That was bigger than fear, bigger than Mrs. Hartley's threats or Brandon's nightmares or anything else. Saturday morning, Bear called instead of texting. "You free today? Need to talk to you about something. In person." "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, just need to show you something." An hour later, Tiny picked her up, drove her to the clubhouse. But instead of the usual crowd of bikers, there were only 5 people there. Bear, Tiny, Donna, and 2 others Zoe didn't recognize. "These are our lawyers," Bear said, gesturing to a woman in a blazer and a man in jeans. "Patricia and James. They handle club business. I asked them here because of Mrs. Hartley." Patricia stepped forward. "Zoe, we've been looking into the complaints the Hartleys filed. They're claiming harassment, intimidation, and creating an unsafe environment. They're pushing for restraining orders against Bear and potentially civil charges. Can they do that? They can try, but their case is weak. Bear and his club members didn't threaten anyone. They didn't break any laws. They showed up on public property during school hours when visitors are allowed. The only thing they did was make Brandon Hartley feel consequences for his actions." "So what happens now?" James spoke. "We fight it. Document everything. Build a countercase showing the school's failure to protect you from sustained harassment. With your permission, we'd like to collect statements from other students Brandon bullied, show a pattern of behavior that the school ignored." "You want to go after the school?" "We want to show that what Bear did was necessary because the school failed its duty of care. That shifts the narrative from dangerous bikers to community members stepping up where officials failed." Zoe looked at Bear. "This is going to cost money. Legal fees and everything." "Already handled," Bear said. "The club voted. We're covering it." "Why?" Donna spoke up. "Because you're family. Because what's happening to you isn't right. And because if we don't fight bullies when they have money and power, they win. Every time." We're not letting them win. Patricia handed Zoe a folder. These are statements from 6 other families whose kids Brandon bullied. Parents who wanted to file complaints but were discouraged by the school. People who saw what happened to you and decided to finally speak up. Zoe opened the folder, read the first page. A mother describing how Brandon had mocked her son's stutter until the boy stopped talking in class entirely. How the school told her boys would be boys. How nothing changed until her son faked sick for a month straight rather than go back. The second statement was worse, the third devastating. By the fourth, Zoe was crying. "He did this to everyone," she whispered. "And they just let him." "Not anymore," Bear said. "This stops now. With you. Because you were brave enough to accept help. And that opened the door for everyone else." Patricia collected the folder. "We'll file our response next week. And we'll make it very clear that if the Hartleys want to fight, we're ready. But I suspect once they see what we have, they'll back down. And if they don't, then we go to court. And we win." Zoe went home that afternoon with her head spinning. The legal stuff felt huge and overwhelming and like something adults should handle, not 12-year-olds. But she wasn't just a 12-year-old anymore. She was someone people were counting on. Sunday evening, her mother came into her room, sat on the bed. "Baby, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest." "Okay. Are you scared? With everything that's happening, the committee, the news story, the legal stuff, are you in over your head?" Zoe thought about it. Really thought. "Yeah, I'm scared, but I'm also angry. And the anger is bigger than the fear. That's what I'm worried about. Anger can make us do things we regret." "Mom, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just refusing to be quiet anymore." "There's a difference." Her mother's eyes filled. "I know. And I'm so proud of you I could burst. But you're my baby. And watching you fight battles that adults should be fighting for you, it breaks my heart." "Then fight with me. Don't fight for me. With me." Her mother pulled her into a hug, held on tight. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Monday morning, everything exploded. Zoe rolled into school to find the local newspaper taped to the main bulletin board. Front page headline, "Student Advocacy Exposes Years of Bullying at Maple Ridge Middle School." The article detailed everything: Brandon's transfer, the committee, the legal complaints, the 6 families coming forward, Mrs. Hartley's position on the school board creating a conflict of interest. It was journalism at its finest and most brutal. Students gathered around the bulletin board reading in silence. Teachers stood in doorways looking shell-shocked. By second period, Principal Hendricks called an emergency assembly. The entire school crammed into the gym. Zoe sat in front with the committee members. Principal Hendricks took the microphone looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "By now, many of you have seen this morning's newspaper. I want to address what's been reported and what we're doing about it." He paused, seemed to gather himself. "This school failed. I failed. We allowed a culture where bullying was tolerated if the bully's family had influence. That ends today." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Effective immediately, I'm implementing a zero-tolerance policy on harassment. No warnings, no excuses. Students who bully others will face suspension and mandatory counseling. If that's not enough, expulsion." His voice got harder. "I don't care who your parents are. I don't care what board they sit on. Everyone follows the same rules now." Someone started clapping, then another, then half the gym. Additionally, Hendricks continued. The Accessibility Committee, led by Zoe Martinez, has identified dozens of areas where we've failed our disabled students. We're prioritizing fixes starting this week. New ramps, better elevators, improved emergency procedures. This isn't optional. This is us doing what we should have done years ago." More applause. "Finally, I want to say something to the students who've been hurt, who've been bullied or harassed or made to feel less than. I'm sorry. From the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry. You deserved better. You deserved protection and support and a safe place to learn. I failed to give you that. But I promise you, I swear to you that changes now." The gym went silent. Then Jenny stood up, started signing. Her interpreter's voice carried, "Words are easy, actions matter. We'll be watching." The assembly erupted. Students on their feet, teachers joining in. A standing ovation for a deaf girl who'd just held her principal accountable on behalf of everyone who'd ever been invisible. Zoe felt tears streaming down her face. After the assembly reporters waited in the parking lot, Rebecca Chen and 3 others, cameras rolling, questions flying. Zoe wheeled past them without stopping. So did Jenny. So did Marcus and Alicia and Sarah and all the committee members. They'd said what needed saying. Now it was time to see if anyone listened. That night, Bear called. "Saw the news, saw the paper. You okay?" "I think so. Everything feels really big right now." "It is big. You're changing things, Zoe, real things. That's messy and scary and beautiful. The Hartleys, do you think they'll back off now?" "Honestly, yeah. Their son's behavior is front-page news. Their conflict of interest is exposed. Fighting us now would just make it worse." He paused. "But even if they don't back off, we're ready. We've got lawyers' evidence and a dozen families willing to testify. They can't win this. I never wanted it to be a war." "It's not a war. It's accountability. There's a difference." After they hung up, Zoe sat at her window looking out at Sycamore Street. The same street where she'd given Bear water 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks that felt like 4 years. Everything had changed. The school, the students, her. She thought about Jenny's words. Words are easy, actions matter. Tomorrow she'd find out if Hendrik's words translated to action, if the promises made in that gym would actually come true. But tonight she let herself feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Real, fragile, terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, things could actually get better. Her phone buzzed one more time. A group text from the committee. Sarah. "Tomorrow, we start holding them accountable." Marcus. "We're with you, Alicia. All the way." Jenny. "Let's change the world." Zoe smiled in the dark. "Yeah, let's change the world. Starting tomorrow." Tomorrow came with construction crews. Zoe arrived at school Tuesday morning to find orange cones in the parking lot and workers measuring the entrance ramps. 2 men in hard hats stood with clipboards pointing and discussing angles. Principal Hendricks was there too, coffee in hand, looking like he hadn't slept. "Miss Martinez," he called when he saw her. "Come look at this." She wheeled over. One of the workers showed her a blueprint. "We're replacing all 3 entrance ramps by Friday," the man explained. "ADA-compliant, proper slope ratio, non-slip surface. Should have been done years ago." "Friday?" Zoe couldn't hide her surprise. "That's 3 days." "We've got 2 crews working around the clock." Hendricks sipped his coffee. "The board approved emergency funding last night. Turns out when the newspaper publishes your failures on the front page, things move faster." There was bitterness in his voice, but also something else. Relief, maybe. Like he'd been waiting for permission to do the right thing, and finally had it. Inside, more changes. The accessible bathroom had a new lock 1 that actually worked. Signs posted on every floor reminding teachers to face students when speaking. A notice on the main board announcing that all future field trips would be fully accessible or wouldn't happen at all. Jenny found Zoe between classes. Signed excitedly. "Did you see? They're actually doing things?" "I see it. I just don't trust it yet." "Why not?" "Because 2 weeks ago they didn't care. Now suddenly they care because we made them look bad. That's not real change. That's damage control." Jenny's hands slowed. Maybe. But damage control that helps us is still help. We take the win. She was right. Zoe knew she was right. But part of her couldn't shake the feeling that the second the cameras looked away, everything would slide back to how it was. At lunch, the committee gathered at their usual table. 8 of them now. Word had spread. More students wanted in. "My mom got a call from the district superintendent," Alicia said, "asking about my experiences with accessibility, like an official interview." "Mine too," Sarah added. "They're investigating the whole school, not just Hendricks, the board, the facilities department, everyone." Marcus set down his sandwich. "My dad says there could be lawsuits from families whose kids got hurt on those ramps. The district's exposure is massive." "Good," Zoe said. The word came out harder than she intended. "Maybe they'll actually fix things if they're scared of being sued." "You sound like Bear," Alicia observed. "Bear's smart. He knows that powerful people only change when change costs less than staying the same." Jenny signed something. Her interpreter translated. Cynical, but accurate. The afternoon brought another surprise. Mrs. Chen asked Zoe to stay after English class. "There's someone who wants to meet you," she said. "Superintendent Valdez. She's in Hendricks' office right now." Zoe's stomach knotted. "Am I in trouble?" "No, quite the opposite." The superintendent was younger than Zoe expected. 40s sharp suit expression that gave nothing away. She stood when Zoe wheeled in, came around the desk, extended her hand. "Miss Martinez, thank you for meeting with me. I'm Elena Valdez." They shook. Valdez had a firm grip. "I'll be direct," Valdez said. "The district is facing significant criticism over conditions at this school and others. Criticism that's justified. We failed in our duty of care." She sat on the edge of the desk. "I'm here because I want to understand what needs to change. Not just here. Across all 12 schools I oversee. You want me to tell you how to do your job? I want you to tell me what we're missing. You live this every day. I don't." Valdez pulled out a tablet. "I've read your committee's list. 47 items. Some are easy fixes, ramps, locks, signage. Some are more complex. I want to prioritize based on what matters most to students, so talk to me." Zoe glanced at Hendricks. He nodded slightly. Permission or encouragement, she couldn't tell. "The physical stuff matters," Zoe started. "But the harder thing is culture. Teachers who talk to my chest instead of my face. Students who think accessibility is special treatment instead of basic dignity. Parents who complain that their kid has to wait for an elevator because someone in a wheelchair is using it." Valdez typed notes. "Go on. You can fix every ramp and elevator in this building, but if teachers still treat us like we're inconvenient, nothing really changes. If students still mock us in hallways and nobody stops them, we're still not safe. Physical access is the minimum. We need cultural change. How do we create that? Training. Real training, not some PowerPoint about sensitivity. Bring in people with disabilities to talk to staff. Make it clear that ableist language and behavior have consequences. And listen when students report problems instead of protecting bullies because their parents donate to the PTA." Valdez was quiet for a moment. "You're talking about Brandon Hartley." "I'm talking about a system that let Brandon Hartley torment students for years because his mother sits on the board. Yeah. That's changing. Mrs. Hartley resigned from the board yesterday." The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. "She what?" Zoe managed. "Resigned, effective immediately. The conflict of interest was too glaring. The other board members asked for her resignation. She gave it rather than face removal. Zoe felt something shift in her chest. Victory mixed with disbelief, mixed with exhaustion. Brandon's not coming back here, is he? No, the family's enrolled him at St. Augustine's. But between you and me, that school's been informed of his history. He won't get the same free pass there. Good, Zoe thought, then immediately felt guilty for thinking it. Valdez stood. I'm implementing district-wide changes based on what I've learned here. Accessibility audits at every school, mandatory anti-bullying training with teeth, a formal complaint process that bypasses local administration so parents can report directly to the district office. And I'm creating a student advisory board like your committee, but district-wide. I'd like you to be on it. Me. You started something, Miss Martinez. You made people uncomfortable enough to demand change. That's leadership. I need more of that. After Valdez left, Hendricks looked at Zoe with an expression she couldn't quite read. You know what you've done right, he asked. Made your life harder. He laughed. Actually laughed. Yes, but also made it better, clearer. For years I've been juggling parent demands and board politics and budget constraints, making compromises that hurt students because I told myself I had no choice. He leaned back in his chair. You proved I did have a choice, that I was choosing wrong. That's a hard thing to face, but I'm grateful for it. Are you really, or are you just saying that because you have to? Fair question. He considered it. Both maybe. But the gratitude is real. You gave me permission to do what I should have been doing all along. That's a gift. Zoe wheeled out, feeling strange, like she'd crossed some invisible line and couldn't go back. That evening, Bear texted, heard Mrs. Hartley resigned. You okay? Yeah, feels weird though. How so? Like I destroyed someone's life or something. You didn't destroy anything. You exposed what was already broken. There's a difference. Doesn't feel different. I know, kid. But here's the thing. People like the Hartleys, they're used to power protecting them from consequences. When consequences finally show up, they act like victims. Don't let them make you feel guilty for refusing to be their punching bag. Zoe read the message 3 times. Let it sink in. How do you know exactly what to say? Because I've been where you are. Fighting people with power. Feeling guilty when they face consequences. Took me years to understand that accountability isn't cruelty. It's just the bill coming due. Wednesday brought reporters again. More of them this time. Superintendent Valdez had announced the district-wide changes at a press conference, and now everyone wanted student reactions. Rebecca Chen caught Zoe in the parking lot. Zoe, how does it feel knowing your advocacy led to district-wide policy changes? It feels like it shouldn't have taken this long. Like students shouldn't have to fight this hard for basic dignity. Some critics say the changes are too expensive, that the district can't afford not to. When you exclude students with disabilities, you're not saving money. You're just deciding which kids matter and which don't. That's not a budget issue. That's a values issue. The interview aired that night. Zoe watched it with her parents cringing at her own face on screen, but proud of her words. You sounded like a congresswoman, Marco said. In a good way. Your brother's right, her father added. You're finding your voice, mija. It's powerful. Her mother squeezed her hand, said nothing. Didn't need to. Thursday afternoon, something unexpected happened. A woman approached Zoe after school. Early 30s, nervous energy holding a folder. Zoe Martinez, I'm Amanda Foster. I'm an attorney with the State Disability Rights Organization. Okay, I've been following your story. What you've accomplished here, it's exactly the kind of advocacy we support. I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to speak at our annual conference in December, share your experience, inspire other students to speak up. You want me to give a speech? More of a conversation. You'd talk with me on stage about what happened, what you learned, what advice you have for other young advocates. We'd cover your travel accommodation, everything. And we'd pay an honorarium for your time. Zoe's head spun. I need to ask my parents. Of course. Here's my card. Think about it. What you've done matters beyond Maple Ridge. Other students need to hear that change is possible. That night, Zoe showed her parents the card. They exchanged one of their wordless looks. This is getting bigger than we expected, her mother said carefully. Is that bad? It's not bad, it's just, you're 12, baby. You should be worried about homework and friends and what to wear to school, not giving speeches at conferences. But I'm not just worried about homework anymore. I'm worried about students like me who are still invisible, still being bullied, still being told they don't matter. Her father cleared his throat. If we let you do this, and I'm saying if there are conditions, you keep your grades up, you make time for being a kid, and the second it becomes too much we pull back. Agreed? Agreed. Then we'll talk to this Amanda Foster, see what it involves. But Zoe... He waited until she looked at him. You don't owe anyone your story. You don't have to be everyone's inspiration. You're allowed to just be 12. I know, Dad. But I'm 12 and angry and finally able to do something about it. That feels more important than just being 12. Her mother's eyes filled. When did you get so wise? When I had to. Friday morning, the new ramps were finished. Smooth, properly sloped, safer than anything the school had ever had. Zoe rolled up the main entrance, and for the first time in 3 years, she didn't have to fight the incline or worry about losing control on the way down. Jenny was waiting at the top. Signed, Different Right. So different. I didn't realize how much energy I was wasting just getting into the building. Multiply that by 3 years. That's how much they stole from you. The thought landed hard. 3 years of wasted energy. 3 years of struggling with something that should have been fixed from the beginning. At lunch, Principal Hendricks made an announcement over the intercom. Students and staff, as you've noticed, we've completed the first phase of accessibility improvements. New ramps, repaired elevators, updated emergency procedures. But this is just the beginning. Over the next 6 months, we'll be implementing additional changes based on student feedback. I want to thank the Accessibility Committee for their leadership. And I want to remind everyone this school belongs to all of us. We all have a responsibility to make it welcoming and safe. Applause rippled through the cafeteria. He's really trying, Alicia observed. He's trying because we forced him to, Sarah corrected. But yeah, he's trying. That afternoon brought another surprise. A delivery to the front office. A massive fruit basket with a card addressed to the Accessibility Committee. Mrs. Chen brought it to their table at the end of the day. Opened the card. Read aloud. To the students who refused to stay silent, thank you for reminding us that courage comes in all forms. Your advocacy has inspired our family to do better. With gratitude and respect, the Patterson family. Who are the Pattersons? Marcus asked. Zoe's throat tightened. Mr. Patterson owns the hardware store. He's the one who crossed the street when Bear needed help, when I stopped instead. The gift suddenly meant more than fruit. It meant someone who'd walked away was acknowledging they'd been wrong, that they'd seen what happened next and felt ashamed enough to say so. That's huge, Jenny signed. Adults never admit they were wrong. Some do, Zoe said quietly. When you give them a reason to. Saturday brought the biggest surprise of all. Bear called at 7 in the morning. You awake? I am now. Good. Get dressed. Something's happening and you need to be there. What's happening? You'll see. I'm picking you up in 20 minutes. He arrived with Donna and Tiny. Her parents looked concerned but let her go after Bear promised she'd be safe. They drove to the town square, the gazebo where summer concerts happened, where the farmers' market set up on weekends. Today it was packed with people. At least 200, maybe more. Families with disabled kids, teachers from the school, people Zoe recognized from around town, local business owners, even some city council members. A banner hung across the gazebo. Maple Ridge Inclusion Rally Stand with Zoe. Her stomach dropped. "What is this?" "This," Bear said, "is what happens when one person's courage gives everyone else permission to care." A woman Zoe didn't know was setting up a microphone, saw them arrive, waved them over. "Zoe Martinez. I'm Linda Wu. I organized this rally with some other parents. We wanted to show support for what you've accomplished and push the city to do more." "Do more how?" "The school's making changes, which is great, but the city's behind. Sidewalks are cracked and dangerous. Most businesses aren't accessible. The public library has a broken elevator that's been broken for 8 months. We want the city to commit to real improvements." "And you want me to what? Give a speech?" "Only if you're comfortable. But having you here matters. You're the reason people are paying attention." Zoe looked at Bear. He nodded. "Your call, kid. But these people showed up for you. Might be worth showing up for them." The rally started at 10. Linda spoke first, talking about her daughter who used a walker and how simple tasks like going to the grocery store were unnecessarily difficult. Other parents shared stories. A teacher talked about the changes at school. A business owner promised to install a ramp by next week. Then Linda called Zoe to the microphone. 200 faces turned toward her, waiting, expecting. Zoe's hands shook. Public speaking still terrified her. But she'd learned something these past few weeks. Fear didn't disqualify you. It just meant what you were doing mattered. "I didn't set out to change anything," she started. Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat. Tried again. "I just wanted to survive middle school without being bullied. I wanted to get through a day without someone making me feel worthless." The crowd was silent. "Then I met someone who reminded me that kindness matters, that standing up matters, that we don't have to accept cruelty or exclusion just because it's always been that way." She looked at Bear. He gave her a small nod. "I stopped for him when everyone else kept walking. Then he showed up for me when I needed it most. That started something I never expected. What you see happening at the school, that's not because I'm special or brave or any of the things people keep calling me. It's because I finally had backup. I finally had people who believed me when I said things were wrong. That gave me courage I didn't know I had." Her voice got stronger. "So if you're here because you want to support me, thank you. But don't just support me. Support every kid who's struggling. Support every person who needs accommodations but can't get them. Support change even when it's inconvenient or expensive. Because inclusion isn't a luxury. It's not special treatment. It's just basic human dignity. And we all deserve that." The applause started small. Built. Became something that made Zoe's chest tight and her eyes burn. When she wheeled back to Bear, he pulled her into a hug. "Proud of you, kid," he said quietly. "So damn proud." The rally lasted 2 more hours. City council members spoke, making promises Zoe hoped they'd keep. Local businesses pledged to improve accessibility. Someone started a petition demanding faster city action. By the end, they had 800 signatures. That evening, exhausted and overwhelmed, Zoe sat in her room, scrolling through social media. Photos from the rally were everywhere. Her face at the microphone. The crowd. The banner. One comment stood out. "This girl changed her school, and now she's changing her whole town. Imagine what she'll do when she's older." Zoe stared at that comment for a long time. She was 12. She was tired. She was scared of disappointing everyone who suddenly believed in her. But she was also something else. Something she'd never been before. She was someone who mattered. Someone whose voice carried weight. Someone who could stand in front of 200 people and speak truth and have them actually listen. Her phone buzzed. Group text from the committee. Sarah. You killed it today, Marcus. Seriously. You're like our superhero, Alicia. Not a superhero. Better. A real person who proves real people can change things. Jenny. Whatever happens next, we're with you. Zoe typed back. Whatever happens next, we do it together. Deal. A chorus of responses. Yes, deal, always. Let's go. She fell asleep that night, thinking about tomorrow, about the city council meeting where they'd present the petition, about the district advisory board she'd agreed to join, about the speech in December at the state conference, about all the ways her life had changed because she'd given a stranger water on a hot day. Bear's words echoed. This is just the beginning. He was right. Everything that had happened so far, the school changes, the rally, the district policies, it was just the foundation. The real work was still ahead. Making sure the promises became action. Making sure the momentum didn't fade. Making sure that students who came after her wouldn't have to fight the same battles. That was the goal. That was the mission. And Zoe was just getting started. The city council meeting happened on a Tuesday evening in late October, 6 weeks after Bear had first walked through those school gates. 6 weeks that felt like 6 years. The council chamber was packed, standing room only. Zoe counted at least 50 people from the rally, plus committee members, parents, teachers, and faces she didn't recognize, but who'd apparently shown up because they cared. Bear sat 3 rows back with Donna and Tiny. Her parents flanked her on either side. The committee filled the front row like a small army. Council President Margaret Davis called the meeting to order, worked through routine business with the enthusiasm of someone reading a phone book. Zoning variance, budget amendment, street repair schedule, then public comment period. First speaker, Linda Wu, regarding accessibility improvements. Linda approached the podium with the petition. 800 signatures printed on 47 pages. Councilwoman Davis, council members, thank you for your time. I'm here representing concerned citizens requesting immediate action on accessibility throughout Maple Ridge. She held up the pages. These signatures represent families, business owners, and community members who believe our city can do better. She laid out the problems methodically. Cracked sidewalks that made wheelchair navigation dangerous. Businesses without ramps. The library's broken elevator. The community center with bathrooms too narrow for wheelchairs. The park with beautiful walking trails, but no accessible entrances. These aren't minor inconveniences, Linda said. They're barriers that tell disabled residents they don't fully belong here. We're asking you to commit to a comprehensive accessibility audit and a timeline for improvements. Councilman Porter, 60-something, perpetually irritated, cleared his throat. Mrs. Wu, we appreciate the concern, but the city's budget is tight. These improvements would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars we simply don't have. The ADA has been law since 1990, Linda replied. 35 years. Compliance isn't optional. It's required. The question isn't whether we can afford it. It's whether we can afford the lawsuits when we don't. Porter's face reddened. Are you threatening? I'm stating facts. Other cities have paid millions in settlements for ADA violations. Prevention is cheaper than litigation. Councilwoman Davis intervened. We hear you, Mrs. Wu. Are there other speakers? Yes. Several community members would like to share their experiences. First is Zoe Martinez. Zoe's heart hammered. She'd practiced what she wanted to say for 3 days. Now every word evaporated from her brain. She wheeled to the podium. Someone adjusted the microphone down to her level. 24 faces stared at her. Council members with decades of experience making decisions. Adults who knew parliamentary procedure and budget constraints and political realities. And here was 12-year-old Zoe, about to tell them they'd been doing it wrong. My name is Zoe Martinez. I'm in 7th grade at Maple Ridge Middle School. 6 weeks ago, I gave a man water because he needed it. That man showed up when I needed help. That started something neither of us expected. She looked at Bear, drew strength from his steady gaze. Everyone keeps calling what happened inspiring. But you know what would be really inspiring if disabled people didn't have to fight this hard just to exist in public spaces. If we didn't have to organize rallies and collect signatures and beg adults to do what the law already requires. Her voice shook, but held. I'm 12. I shouldn't have to be here. I should be doing homework and hanging out with friends. But I'm here because someone has to be. Because if we stay quiet, nothing changes. And I'm tired of nothing changing. You want to know what it's like using a wheelchair in this town? It's exhausting. Every curb is a challenge. Every store is a gamble. Will there be a ramp or will I have to ask for help? Every outing requires planning that able-bodied people never think about. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. And that's on you to fix. She paused. Let the words land. So here's what I'm asking. Don't just listen and nod and say you'll consider it. Actually do something. Set a timeline. Allocate funding. Make this a priority. Because disabled people aren't going away. We're not optional residents you can ignore when it's convenient. We're part of this community. And we deserve better. She wheeled back to her seat. Her hands were shaking. Her mother grabbed one and held tight. The chamber erupted in applause. Councilwoman Davis had to gavel for quiet. 3 more speakers followed. A father whose son used crutches. A woman in her 60s with limited mobility. A business owner who'd installed a ramp and saw his customer base expand. When public comment ended, the council members conferred quietly. Then Davis spoke. The testimony we've heard tonight is compelling. I'm directing the city manager to conduct a comprehensive accessibility audit within 60 days and return to this council with a proposed action plan and budget. We'll also establish a citizens advisory committee to provide ongoing input. Mrs. Wu, Miss Martinez, would you be willing to serve on that committee? Linda nodded immediately. Zoe hesitated, then nodded too. Then it settled. We'll reconvene on this issue in December with concrete proposals. Meeting adjourned. Outside, people swarmed Zoe. Congratulations. Thank you. You were amazing. She smiled and nodded and tried not to show how overwhelmed she felt. Bear extracted her from the crowd gently. Come on, kid. Let's get some air. They found a quiet spot by the parking lot. Just the 2 of them and the cool October night. You okay? Bear asked. I don't know. I think so. That was intense. You were incredible in there. Spoke truth to power like you'd been doing it for years. I was terrified the whole time. Couldn't tell. That's the secret, though. Courage isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing it anyway. Zoe looked up at him. This man who'd been a stranger 6 weeks ago and now felt like family. Do you think they'll actually follow through? Or was that just them placating us so we'd go away? Honestly, bit of both. They'll do something. Whether it's enough depends on whether we keep the pressure on. That's the work. Not the dramatic speeches, but the boring follow-up, showing up at meetings, checking progress, not letting them forget. That sounds exhausting. It is, but that's how change happens. Slowly, persistently, with people who refuse to quit. Her father approached. Mija, we should head home. School tomorrow. Mr. Martinez, hold up a second. Bear's voice carried a weight that made her father stop. I want to say something. What your daughter's done these past 6 weeks, it's extraordinary. But it's also a lot for a 12-year-old. And I know my showing up that first day started all of this. So if you ever feel like it's too much, if you want me to step back, you just say the word. Zoe's well-being comes first, always. Her father studied Bear for a long moment. You know what I've realized? You didn't start this. Brandon Hartley started it. The school's negligence started it. Years of people looking the other way started it. You just made it impossible to ignore. He extended his hand. So thank you for seeing my daughter when everyone else was blind. They shook. A moment of understanding between two men who loved the same kid for different reasons. On the drive home, Zoe's mother turned around from the front seat. Baby, I need to know, do you want to keep doing this, the committee? The speaking all of it, because you can say no. You can step back and just be 12. I know, Mom. But I don't want to. Not yet. Why not? Because it's working. Things are actually changing. And if I stop now, it might all slide back. Her mother's eyes were sad. That's not your responsibility, though. You're a child. I'm a child who has the power to make things better. Isn't that exactly when I should use it? No one had an answer for that. The next 6 weeks blurred together. School, committee meetings, city advisory meetings, press interviews, a feature in the state newspaper, an invitation to speak at a regional disability rights conference in addition to the December State 1. Zoe's grades held steady A's and B's, nothing that would make her parents pull the plug. But she was tired, bone-deep tired that sleep didn't quite fix. The school continued improving. New signage, better accommodations, teachers who actually enforced anti-bullying policies instead of looking the other way. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Brandon Hartley's name faded from conversations. His family apparently kept him at St. Augustine's, where by all accounts, he was quieter, chastened. Whether he'd actually changed or just learned to hide it better, Zoe didn't know, didn't particularly care. The city moved slower. The audit happened. The report was damning 37 ADA violations across public spaces. The proposed fix came with a price tag that made council members wince. $2 million over 5 years. That's actually reasonable, Linda explained at a committee meeting. Other cities our size have spent more. The question is whether they prioritize it. They prioritized it. The local newspaper's editorial board pushed for it. Business owners pledged private funding. Bears Club held 2 more charity rides and donated proceeds specifically for accessibility improvements. By Thanksgiving, the city had approved a phased plan. Year 1 focused on critical safety issues, sidewalks, curb cuts, the library elevator. Later years would tackle parks, community centers, and business district improvements. It wasn't everything, but it was something. Thanksgiving dinner at the Martinez house was louder than usual. Marco invited his girlfriend. Zoe's grandmother came from 2 states over. The table groaned under the weight of food and family. Her grandmother pulled Zoe aside while others were in the kitchen. Your mother tells me you've been busy. That's one word for it. She's worried. Says you're growing up too fast. I'm just doing what needs doing, abuela. Her grandmother cupped Zoe's face with weathered hands. Listen to me, nieta. What you're doing is beautiful, important, but don't lose yourself in it. Don't let fighting for others mean you forget to live for yourself. Understand? I understand. Do you? Because I see that look in your eyes. That weight. I've seen it in activists, in fighters, in people who care so much they forget how to rest. Promise me you'll remember to be a child sometimes, to laugh and play and do silly things that don't matter. Zoe hugged her tight. I promise. December brought the state conference, a hotel in the capital city. 300 attendees. Disability rights advocates, lawyers, activists, students from across the state. Zoe's parents came. So did Bear, Donna, and Tiny. They'd made a weekend ride of it, brought 8 club members for moral support. The night before her speech, Zoe couldn't sleep. She paced her hotel room, practicing words that suddenly sounded hollow and performative. Bear knocked at midnight. Her father let him in. "Thought you might be awake," Bear said. "Want to take a walk?" They went to the hotel courtyard, cold December air, empty pool, string lights creating small pockets of warmth in the darkness. "I can't do this," Zoe said. "Tomorrow, the speech, I can't." "Why not?" "Because I'm a fraud. Everyone thinks I'm this brave activist who fearlessly stands up for people, but I'm just a scared kid who got lucky, who happened to give the right person water at the right time. That's not bravery. That's just coincidence." Bear was quiet for a moment. "You remember what I told you that first day about how kindness doesn't go unnoticed?" "Yeah. I didn't tell you the whole truth. Want to know what really happened?" He sat on a pool chair, gestured for her to sit beside him. "My brother died of a heart attack. But before that, he'd been struggling. Depression, addiction, all of it. I tried to help. Did everything I could. It wasn't enough. When he died, I blamed myself, thought if I'd done more, been more, he'd still be here." His voice cracked. "I was pushing that bike in 100-degree heat, couldn't breathe, didn't care if I collapsed. Part of me wanted to. Thought it'd be easier. Then this kid rolls up and hands me water. Looks at me like I matter. Like my life is worth saving. You reminded me that sometimes the help we need comes from unexpected places. That asking for help isn't weakness. That people still care." He looked at her directly. "So know what happened wasn't just coincidence. It was you choosing compassion when everyone else chose judgment. That's not luck, Zoe. That's character. And everything that came after the school changes, the city improvements, all of it, that came from people seeing your character and finding their own courage. What if I mess up the speech tomorrow? Then you mess it up. But you show up anyway. You tell your story. You give other kids permission to tell theirs. That's all anyone can ask." The next morning, Zoe stood backstage listening to Amanda Foster introduce her. 300 people in that ballroom. Media covering it. Streaming online to thousands more. Her hands shook. Her mouth was dry. Every instinct screamed at her to run. Then she heard it. Engines. Outside the hotel, getting louder. She peeked through the curtain. Through the ballroom windows, she could see them at least 20 motorcycles pulling into the hotel entrance. Bear's Club. Donna. Tiny. Others she recognized from the rides and rallies. They'd showed up. Again. Not because she'd asked. Because that's what family did. Amanda called her name. Zoe wheeled onto the stage. The speech she'd practiced for weeks disappeared. She spoke from her heart instead. Told them about Bear. About water on a hot day. About 6 motorcycles and a bully who finally faced consequences. About a school that changed and a city that followed. About students who found their voices and adults who finally listened. "Everyone keeps asking what I learned from all this," Zoe said near the end. "And I think the lesson isn't about disability rights or activism or any of the big official things. The lesson is simpler. The lesson is stop. When you see someone struggling, stop. Don't look away. Don't assume someone else will help. Just stop." Because that's all I did. I stopped. I gave someone water. And that small act rippled outward in ways I never could have predicted. Changed my school. Changed my town. Changed me. So if you take anything from my story, take this: you don't have to be special or brave or have everything figured out. You just have to stop, to see people, to treat them with basic kindness and dignity. Everything else flows from that. Everything. And the applause when she finished was thunderous. But what Zoe remembered most was afterward, when a girl about her age approached. She wore leg braces and walked with difficulty. "Thank you," the girl said. Her voice was shy, uncertain. "I'm getting bullied at my school. I've been scared to tell anyone, but hearing your story, it made me think maybe I can." "You can," Zoe told her. "And if your school doesn't listen, keep pushing. Find allies. Make noise. Don't stop until they hear you." "What if I'm not as brave as you?" "I'm not brave, I'm just stubborn. And you can be stubborn too." The girl hugged her, walked away, standing a little straighter. That was the moment Zoe understood. It wasn't about being perfect or fearless or having all the answers. It was about showing other people that change was possible, that their voices mattered, that they didn't have to accept being invisible. The weekend ended with a celebration dinner. Both families, Zoe's and Bear's extended club family, crammed into a restaurant's private room. Stories and laughter and the kind of warmth that came from chosen family. Bear raised a glass of soda. To Zoe, who saved an old bastard's life with a bottle of water and ended up changing a whole town. To Zoe, everyone echoed. Then Donna stood. And to Bear, who saw a kid in trouble and didn't look away, who taught us that brotherhood extends beyond patches and bikes. That family is who shows up, not just who shares your blood. Glasses clinked. Zoe felt tears on her cheeks but didn't bother wiping them away. Her father stood next. To everyone at this table. 6 months ago, my daughter was being bullied, and I didn't know how to help her. Today, she's changing laws and inspiring people across the state. That didn't happen because of one person. It happened because of all of you. So thank you. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you. The semester ended with one final committee meeting. Principal Hendricks showed them the numbers. Bullying incidents down 40%. Reported accessibility issues resolved within an average of 3 days instead of 3 months. Parent satisfaction scores up significantly. "I want to be clear," Hendricks said. "These improvements are because of you, because you refused to accept the status quo, because you pushed when it would have been easier to stay quiet." "What happens next year?" Sarah asked. "When we're in 8th grade or high school, who keeps pushing?" "That's the work," Zoe said. "Training new students, making sure the culture doesn't slide back, staying vigilant even when it's boring." "Sounds exhausting," Marcus said. "It is, but it's also worth it." Jenny signed. "We should create a handbook, document what worked, give next year's students a roadmap." "That's brilliant," Mrs. Chen said. "I'll help you put it together over winter break." Spring semester started with Zoe settling into a routine. School 4 days a week, committee meetings twice monthly, city advisory meetings once a month. She'd learned to balance activism with homework, with actually being 12. She went to movies with Jenny and Alicia, had sleepovers, argued with Marco about whose turn it was to take out the trash, failed a math quiz and had to do corrections. Normal kid stuff mixed with the extraordinary. The city's improvements progressed. New sidewalks on Sycamore Street. The library elevator fixed. Accessible entrances at 3 parks. Business owners installing ramps without being forced. Bear texted regularly, but they saw each other less frequently. He'd started working with other chapters, helping them develop community outreach programs, using what happened in Maple Ridge as a model. "You created a blueprint," he told her during one visit. "Other towns are following it, all because you stopped. In March, something unexpected happened. The state legislature passed a bill requiring all public schools to have student-led accessibility committees. They called it the Martinez Initiative. A reporter asked Zoe how it felt having a law named after her. It feels like it shouldn't have taken a law, but I'm glad it exists. Glad other students won't have to fight as hard as we did. By May, Maple Ridge Middle School felt completely different from the place Zoe had started 7th grade. Not perfect, nowhere was perfect, but better, safer, more inclusive. Brandon Hartley became a cautionary tale instead of a terror. New students learned his story as an example of what the school wouldn't tolerate anymore. The final committee meeting of the year happened on a sunny afternoon in late May. 17 students crammed into Mrs. Chen's classroom one last time. "I'm proud of what we built this year," Zoe said, "and I'm proud of what we're passing on. The handbook, the procedures, the culture changes. Next year's committee has a strong foundation." "What about you?" Alicia asked. "You staying on next year?" "I'll be on it, but someone else should lead. Give other voices a chance." Jenny signed. "You're not quitting, right? Just stepping back." "Stepping back, not quitting. There's a difference." After the meeting ended, Mrs. Chen pulled Zoe aside. "You know what you've accomplished this year. Made a lot of noise, changed lives, including your own. You came in here invisible and angry. You're leaving visible and powerful. That's growth." "I'm still angry." "Good. Stay angry. Angry people change the world." The last day of 7th grade brought yearbooks and signatures and promises to stay in touch over summer. Zoe's yearbook filled with messages, some generic, others that made her cry. From Marcus. "You taught me that stuttering doesn't make me less. Thank you." From Sarah. "My sister talks about you constantly, says she wants to be like you when she grows up. You're her hero." From Jenny. "We changed everything together. Let's keep going." From Principal Hendricks, who'd somehow gotten hold of her yearbook. "Thank you for making me a better educator and a better person. This school is better because you were brave enough to demand more." The final message was from Brandon Hartley. Someone must have given him her yearbook at St. Augustine's. The message was short. "I'm sorry. Really sorry. What I did was wrong. You didn't deserve it. Thank you for showing me what consequences feel like. I'm trying to be better." Brandon. Zoe stared at that message for a long time. Didn't know if she believed it. Didn't know if she forgave him. But she appreciated that he'd tried. Summer arrived with thunderstorms and lazy days, and blessed relief from the pressure of always being on. Zoe spent June being 12, swimming at the community pool now accessible, movies at the theater now with proper accommodations, hanging out at the park now with entrances she could actually use. In July, Bears Club organized a community ride to celebrate 1 year since the day on Sycamore Street. 60 bikers. A trailer for Zoe. A route that took them past the school, past City Hall, past every place that had changed because people chose to stop instead of walk away. At the final destination, the town square where the rally had happened, they found another surprise. A new bench. Bronze plaque mounted on the backrest. In honor of those who stop, who see, who refuse to let cruelty win. May we all be brave enough to offer water to strangers. Zoe couldn't read the whole thing through her tears. "We didn't tell you because we wanted it to be a surprise," Bear said. "Club voted. We commissioned it. Thought the town square needed a reminder. Of what? That kindness matters. That small acts have big consequences. That one person can change everything." They sat on that bench together. This 12-year-old girl and this 50-year-old biker who'd saved each other without meaning to. "What happens now?" Zoe asked. "Now you live your life. You go to 8th grade. You be a kid. You let other people carry the weight for a while." What if things slide back? They won't. You built something sustainable, created systems that outlive any one person. That's the real victory, not the changes themselves, but the structures that keep them going. Zoe leaned against him, let herself be 12 and tired and hopeful all at once. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. Thank you for giving me water that day, for seeing me when everyone else didn't, for reminding me that life's worth living." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set over Maple Ridge. A town that was imperfect but improving. A place where students had voices and adults actually listened, where disabled people could navigate public spaces without constantly fighting for access. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. And better was worth celebrating. That night, Zoe sat at her window looking out at Sycamore Street. The same street where everything had started. The same cracked pavement now scheduled for replacement next spring. She thought about the girl with leg braces at the conference, about Brandon's apology, about 17 students who'd found their voices, about a city that had learned to prioritize inclusion, about bikers who'd showed up because one of them had been shown kindness. Her phone buzzed. Group text from the committee. "Sarah, next year we go bigger. Marcus, statewide advocacy. Alicia, national Jenny. Whatever happens, we do it together." Zoe smiled. Typed back, "Together. Always." She was 13 in 2 months, 8th grade in 8 weeks, high school after that. A whole life stretching ahead full of possibilities she'd never imagined a year ago. But tonight, she was just Zoe. A girl who'd given someone water because it was the right thing to do. A girl who'd learned that small acts could spark movements, that invisible people could become impossible to ignore. That change was hard and slow and absolutely worth fighting for. Her mother knocked softly, came in without waiting. "You okay, baby?" "Yeah, Mom, I really am." "No regrets about any of it?" Zoe thought about it. Really thought. "No regrets. It was hard and scary and exhausting, but I'd do it all again." Her mother kissed her forehead. "That's my girl, my brave, stubborn, world-changing girl." After she left, Zoe picked up the card Amanda Foster had given her. The disability rights organization wanted her to join their youth advisory board, lead workshops for other young activists, share her story with students across the country. She'd said she'd think about it. Now she knew her answer. Yes, but on her terms. Balanced with school and friends and being 13, taking breaks when needed, letting others lead sometimes. Because the work wasn't about her. It had never been about her. It was about creating a world where disabled kids didn't have to fight just to exist. Where kindness was the default instead of the exception. Where people stopped instead of walking away. That world wasn't here yet. But it was closer than it had been a year ago. And Zoe Martinez, 12-year-old activist, student, daughter, sister, honorary biker and professional pain in the ass to anyone who underestimated disabled people, was going to keep pushing until it arrived. One bottle of water had changed everything. Imagine what came next.